page.
Just one page, yes. I just had a panel open in case there was something that came. One screenshot.
I got an email that said we're live. Just ready. About ready to start? June 5th, 6 p.m. We'll call service. Call. Osprey. Present. Coleman.
Present.
Chopper.
Present.
Also in attendance, we have the mayor and village administrator, fiscal officer, got council members, Darla Reed, Schofter, Foreman Chuck Keller, and we got chief here too. Chief says. Can I get a motion for approval of the department?
Foreman makes a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion properly made and seconded. For approval of the minutes for our meeting. Move on to any visitors that we have to address the committee. Right into goals for 2020. We did streets project. Any updates?
And, give you some updates in my report.
And for the water treatment plant.
We're still working on those. We just started our budgets for next year.
Okay, so we have the 5-year plan for the wastewater treatment plant. That'll be in your report as well, I assume.
Not this report here, but we're working on that. Yeah,
And then the I project that knows an ongoing.
same with that.
Yeah. So that we can move on to village department reports.
So from the water department, the SCADA PC of the plant is now completely installed and it's working really good. On the August the 16th, the elevated water tower will be drained and cleaned as a part of our contract. And the rest of the NOAA arrived for the Shade Pavilion at the park, so it is now finished. And I'll be submitting all of those bills to the foundation for reimbursement. That was a part of our, I think they call it phase 1 section 1. The membranes are still running in auto. They're doing really good after our cleans. We are waiting on some more materials for the membrane maintenance cleans. They're in back order. I'm getting a little concerned where things are starting to really get hard to order. I don't want to get these membranes out of sequence, but like for the chlorine, you can only keep that so long before it dissipates and is no longer it's no longer any good. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Right now, they're draining the basement and basin and processing the sludge. We currently have 3 sludge bags ready to fall this fall once we can get on the field, which would leave 1 more for us to come to this winter. So we did have that meeting with Bright, Brown and Caldwell and B3. And we are working on some deliverables from that meeting. They want to increase their flow to us, but we want to put parameters in it because we're getting close to the winter months when the bugs start going dormant. So we'll be watching that carefully. The street, some of the projects, 2 new aprons will be installed on Park Street. If you remember, Mrs. Hannah was in and didn't like her approach. It's going to cost us around $7,200 to put a double approach there. It'll be for Mrs. Hannah and also for the property that's on the corner of Monroe and Park there. So they'll both be getting a new concrete apron. Once we get the concrete aprons done, then that project is ready to close out. We'll be finished. We did the final walkthrough. We finally received the parts for the asphalt roller. So now we can begin patching and repairing. Specifically, we had a lot of areas where we had water line repairs that have been settling, and we need to get those patched before it gets cold. We haven't noticed the parking blocks at the football field have been moved. They are now where we agreed to for a curb. And then on the 16th, this Wednesday, then we'll be striping the parking stalls. So I believe that project or that issue is now situated. Again, like I said, this Wednesday we'll be striping Basel. While I have them over there, I'm going to have them do the parking stalls along Basel Street also. Then they'll be doing the police station and Village Hall, and then of course the football field. So they have a lot of striping to do when they come in on Wednesday. I'm going to talk a little bit about the projects going on. The corner project, which is what I call 37 and 256. We are working right now. It appears Tim found out that once they are done with the paving, our sewer line is going to be under the pavement. So we are working right now with ODOT to try to move the sewer line over to where the edge of the pavement is going to be. I just was pulled into this situation today. I can't really give you a complete update, but it appears from the emails that I got that ODOT is expecting us to bid out the project and to pay for the project, and then they'll reimburse us. So I need to get into that a little deeper. I did get a phone call from Robert today because the portion of ODOT that does the land, our property, had reached out to him and wanted to have a meeting about it. So I'm not even quite sure what that is. Again, I'm sorry, my computer was down until about 2:30 today, so I'm just getting caught up on my emails. So as soon as I get more information on that, I will get back with you. But this is something that I'm going to have to look at closely along with Brian, because it's going to depend on how much it costs to do the line.
Who's Robert?
Sorry,
You said Robert. I don't know who Robert is.
Robert Landis.
Okay, that's what I was.
He has the corner property, and then this is Sakis.
That's all I was trying to,
Yeah.
I was thinking that was him, but I wasn't sure he was the one you're referring to.
Sorry.
I guess, well, okay, they'll reimburse us, okay. But why do we have to put up the money to begin with? They were supposed to survey it and figure out the issues.
I have a whole list of questions I'm going to be asking tomorrow.
I mean,
But again, I had to get my emails to Brian today, so I didn't get a chance to look at everything. But it is quite a project.
I mean, I don't have a problem with us bidding it out so that we use our contractor, just send ODOT the bill.
And I'm thinking that's not the way they're gonna work, so. I think, well, how many pages was there? 10, 12 pages for that document that you printed out? Both sides?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have to look at it and see. I'll keep you updated though, and I will come back to council for their approval before I do anything on that. So,
That would just be the change of the contract.
yeah, that's a
Well-
question I have.
Moving the sewer lines probably going to, even though that's a costly project, probably going to get close to your percentage. Because usually the contract will have like a 10% change order maximum.
A lot, because they were gonna do the traffic one way and now they're doing it a different way. They may be maxed out.
Yeah, so they may not have
Which is what I'm kind of think is happening
any maneuverability under their contract.
under the current
Under the
contract, and that's why they want us to bid it out and then reimburse us. But, so let me get more information on this, and I promise I won't do anything without coming back to council, but I do have a whole list of questions. If you have some questions you would like me to ask for you, please just email them to me. So again, we had a meeting last week. We're applying for the PTI for Granville Water. That project has been approved by the PWC. We're ready to go. The Washington water line, I am still waiting on directions from the county, but we're gonna go ahead and then the same with the Monroe water line. That is, so we'll be doing the survey and doing the PTI. Sometimes the PTI is what really, takes a while, and I like to at least get Monroe Street done this year before it gets.
What does PTI stand?
Same thing.
Permit to.
Permit to install. Yeah,
Got it.
thank you. So it's just the EPA's way of talking. They don't ever say words. They just say office. Yeah. Well, I try not to. My husband did do that. So I Sleepy Hollow. Okay, so we had a meeting with the engineering company who is representing a investor who wants to redo Sleepy Hollow. Was working with Jeff to get that project done, was done in, I believe, approved by council, I believe in '08. And so the subdivision. And so there were some already easements that are out there, but not all of them. So my suggestion to this investor and to this engineering firm, which finally they're going to do, is to ask for a PUD. Because they were going to take all of the prints and just make it the way it was approved by council in '08, and it's just not going to work. So they want to make the lots smaller, the streets smaller, so they can maximize their. So more to come on that. You'll be deeply involved with that. This was just a prelim meeting of, this is how much water we have, this is how much sewer we have, etc. So they are going to go PUD.
Wouldn't council's 08 approval be void at this point because they didn't break
And
ground?
08, it was old in 08. It had been done many years
So,
before.
and
08.
there was something in the 1990s
Yeah,
that
it
was also
more
that.
than-
But I don't think it'd be void, but it will be void because they want to change everything.
So if it isn't void, that might be something we want to look at. Because when, in other places, when I look at plans and we get them, go to court over them all the time, if you don't break ground within so long,
Now,
Of
our
the
zoning
municipality
permits are like that.
it becomes void and you have to start all over again.
Well, that is something I'm gonna have to look up, Brad, but if it's not in our subdivision rules, it's still good, because even if, right?
Possibly.
It's in-
But if it's not in our subdivision rules, it might be something we want to look at. for
Right.
subdivision rules.
Oh, I'm agreeing with that.
Otherwise, you end up with a plat that was done in
Right.
1990.
Yeah.
But here it's irrelevant because they're going to change it anyway.
Yeah,
But yeah,
But
but for future.
moving forward.
yeah, but moving forward, we can look and see if that's in the subdivision rules, but yes, they wanted to change the width of the streets from face-to-face curve measurements. And they wanted to change the number of properties and a couple other things, so, but it was a good meeting. I'm sorry.
Got street names. I think some of them were named Headless Horseman Way and it's just
Yeah.
goofy
Well,
stuff.
those were already
Pickleball crane.
changed.
Yeah, like that.
Those were
They
changed,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
those
did
were
they change it?
changed a while ago.
That might
to
change
be
in
street
08
names.
because somebody was looking at it in 08.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nothing really changed.
yeah, and I'm not sure, I can look up that information if you like, the street names are changed, so. All right, so moving on to I, as you know, we're still collecting data from our flow meters. We have sent the first iteration or first group of information to B3 to analyze. I'll be interested to see what they have to say. We finally got the rest of the supplies. Now we just need to get the contractor around for the Liberty and Maple new storm line, which we're going to do. And then finally, under I, you have before you tonight the draft of the scope of services from B3. They were in on Friday. And they walked the area, were able to talk to some of the residents. I don't know exactly who they talked to. I didn't get to go. I wanted to go, but I couldn't leave the office. And so this is the scope of services I asked them to put together. I wanted to know exactly what they were going to do, how they were going to attack this project, and what they think is going to come out of it. This project for them just to do for this scope of services is going to be around $25,000. So this, if you remember when we talked about it, when you asked me to get a scope of service from them, we were going to use the money from the stormwater fund that the residents pay. there will be enough if it's around 25,000, but that will take us down to very, very low balance in that storm fund. So depending on what they find, if there is enough money to do probably the scope of services, but not to do effects.
Is there a way we could do the scope of services from a different budget and do the work with the existing budget?
Not this year, Rick, because I'll tell you, our money is so tied up in the other projects that we're doing.
But
As I said, we have budget surplus.
there's a surplus,
There's a
so
surplus.
council can always appropriate unappropriated monies into the I and I.
But it's in. It's a surplus right now.
So, but yeah, council can always take from the surplus from unappropriated monies. It's just sitting in the general fund.
So while Brian's looking that up, we'll just go ahead and look at this high level. Like I said, they did come and walk. And I am told that they found out that one of the residents does have a 1908 map of the area that he gave to Washington Township. Walnut. So they're gonna try to get a copy of that map, because that's kind of taken back, because I know you came in and looked at the map on my wall and said it wasn't right. And that's the issue, nothing's right. But that came directly off of our maps that we had. So it's kind of hard. So Brian Coughlin was going to reach out to the township and see if we
I know
had.
that Steve Kenny had a lot of different maps.
It wasn't Steve Kenny, actually.
Was it Lester?
Yeah.
Okay,
Lester.
because he's a couple of houses out.
Right. It's Lester.
But whenever we get it unplugged, it's going to him. So Lester's the guy.
Right, I know what But a lot of drainage tile.
He does what?
He buys a lot of drainage tile. I know him well.
So,
It is coming at him.
So again, we started out at the meeting by looking at the USGS map to see, there's always that territory, that boundary where the water flows one way and it flows the other way. And there was some questions as to whether that map was even right. So
To answer the question. Carryover protection.
Which, what? Do you have any of that?
I can
Storm.
barely
Brian.
hear him. You have to.
Speak up.
The storm sewer fund has a projected carryover of 31,000. So like, for instance, we budgeted 51,000 we budgeted for at the beginning of the year. That's for standard budget.
Right.
It brings in approximately 60,000.
Okay, I guess the question is, that's what's been appropriated and budgeted, but
Right.
we've got a surplus carryover, so there's unappropriated money.
That's what I'm talking about. The unappropriated money is 31,000.
Because the Maple Street project took half of it and the other part's still unappropriated.
I'm just looking at what was budgeted last year, the summary numbers here. You have the appropriations report.
And that includes out of the general fund and everything.
No, that's just storm sewer.
No,
Yeah,
no,
we were
I'm
talking
talking-
general fund.
I'm talking general.
I was
General
talking-
fund had a projected carryover. I could go get that in there, but I had to take a county owner certificate for that.
Because council can always take from the unappropriated general fund and put it in stormwater if they want to do it.
So you're saying the V3, just the figuring out what to do is $25,000, not to do it.
not to do it. They have to do a study. As you can see, it's a pretty in-depth study because, again, we have pieces and parts and et cetera. It's not unusual for a study. That's kind of a ballpark.
Along the grant money to pay for that. Just have-
That's where it's gonna get sticky.
That's where I have one question
Yes.
regarding seemingly unrelated issue, but the county's federal disaster mitigation plan
Mhm.
gets submitted next year, is that correct?
Next year.
Right.
Correct.
So as part of that, FEMA has funds available. It's a competitive bid like any other
Mhm.
grants. FEMA brick, building resilient infrastructure in communities and flood mitigation assistance is part of that purview. So it's probably a long shot,
Mhm.
but if the county writes that project into their risk assessment, it would make the county or us as a sub applicant competitive for funding for that project.
The study would
Could.
help.
And the study is definitely gonna
That
help.
would be a
Yeah.
The
prerequisite. That would
study
be
is,
necessary.
they are not going to do anything about the study. I've already spoken to him about it and asked him if this would work, and he goes, well, upfront, what you're telling me, it might. But because it's crossing between, and especially because it's between village property and township property.
Yeah, but
And that's why we need to get that
To the county.
incorporated with the county's
because,
federal
That is correct.
plan,
because,
so we can get fed money sent to the county to fix this problem.
because then the county can send it to the township and the village.
Exactly, because we're sub-applicants, and this grant money is available for the exact reason we're talking about this.
I have already started looking at that, and I will continue to look at that. Trust me, I know that this is going to be a big time project, and we have to get all the money we can. But again, you know, I will do my due diligence, and as you know, I do pretty good at
But
that.
in order to do that, we need to have.
We have
the
to have the study.
Right.
agree, We have to have an estimate of cost
Right.
and a projected solution in order to.
So short term, we're gonna be stretched, but if we can get the plans and
How stretched will it be?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we didn't hear from Brian yet. We don't know that.
Okay, what do you ask? Which fund do you want to know about?
General.
General fund.
General fund, okay, we are under, we had a total available resources, 1.4 million. We budgeted 996,000, so we have 441,000 that has not been appropriated.
Right.
Now, for storm sewer fund. Total available resources, 111,000, close to 111,500 roughly. We budgeted 80,000, which is the carryover, which is the that hasn't been by $31,433.
So there's enough in the
General
storm
fund.
sewer- There's enough in the storm sewer to pay for the study.
Yes.
And then if there is some work that can be done this year, there is money in the general fund that can be reappropriated or do the grant. Because then if you do the grant, you can put up
Yeah.
additional
You
local
have, but that's-
resources.
But we have 71,000 right now that hasn't even been encumbered yet.
Because that's the project that we were talking about. That's not all there, but you answered me this question. So the overall general fund that you're saying I have,
Yeah.
what happens if I use it to next year's budget?
It's gonna take a big hit.
That's what I thought. So I understand that.
It's gonna do what?
It'll hit. That's just a projected carryover. I mean,
But Brian, do you understand how long we have paid for storm sewer out there?
I know, I've
We
been
don't
with you,
have it.
I've been with you.
Oh, I know you have.
Well, this 25,000 of it's going to be right now here.
But-
So,
But,
you know,
That's this year's money carrying over to next year.
yeah, you're right.
But next year we get more money too. So you're
Yes.
making it sound like that 441, we won't have any money next year and that's.
No,
not-
no,
yeah.
and
Like
It-
next
it'll
year's
be
money
tight.
plus
It'll-
441.
I mean,
Right.
last year, I mean, I can't remember what happened last year appropriation, but we budgeted, I don't know, about the same amount in the general fund, and we came in 30, 40,000 under, so, under budget. So therefore, that helps out with carry.
So doesn't this help with the project that we're dealing with here on this side of 256? Doesn't that help with the ODOT and all that and the annexing further out to 37? Doesn't that all help?
it may contribute, but there still won't be an issue with the water and 37.
Yeah, there's,
And this is the issue right now, that is just a township issue. So like, again, all these pieces have to come together. I will work very hard for you to make sure that gets done, but I can only do what I can.
But moving eastward, most of those people don't need our water and they don't need our sewer. But if we can offer them stormwater mitigation, there's such a serious problem out there that that may be an incentive for them to annex.
If the solution includes fixing something there,
Since we're-
hey, you're gonna annex in and we can include
we
this
can
in
do
our
this
project.
project. And there, and the stormwater project problems go all the way east of Holder Road. I mean, Holder Road is gonna, the east side of Holder Road is gonna be declared a, or not Holder, Witherspoon. It's gonna be declared a wetland if they don't do something about it soon. It's got cattails growing in there. It didn't used to be that
On
way
the USUG maps, they already have it identified
as
as,
a wetland.
not as a wetland, but as a low-lying area. Brian C. City has to get verification to see if that means wetland, but yeah, you were
Yeah,
right.
I mean, if we were to take this project with the county and push it on out to Witherspoon, that could be leveraged to get that whole area to go ahead and come on in.
The other thing, which reminded me when you were talking, we did do an analysis of all the standing water on 256 and on Holder. And what I mean analysis is that some thought, well, you have a leak. So in the water line. So if there was any leak in a water line, whether it be Baltimore or Thurston, it would have shown up in the testing, and there was not. So Joey did testing and then shared that with Brian C. also, so they knew about that. I wanted to put that. So I just need a motion to move forward with this at the end of I have a couple more things to report on. But before we conclude tonight's meeting, I need a motion right now.
Like it.
Mr. Wade,
They have the floor. Absolutely.
Turn on your microphone.
Oh, I think it's fine.
No, it's not.
They're slow, but-
Then let up.
I just put a new battery.
There you go.
Oh.
Now you're up.
I never had to have one of these. One of the first questions that came to my mind is, how much did you spend for engineering on Maple and what was the other street here just a few months ago or a month? Yeah,
0.
okay.
And there's a reason for that. Because we knew the answer.
Here's the issue. And many other people out on Holder Road think you are making a mountain out of a molehill. You know, we've all lived out there for a long time and we're not stupid. We're rural people and we know what tile are. We can point to you where the biggest problem is. And that biggest, you're going to spend more on engineering than what it would take to come out there and dig up 300 foot of tile and replace it. That's our issue. And this is our money you're spending too.
Can you guarantee me replacing 300 feet of tile?
Is it in-
I can
is-
get,
is the
well,
problem?
I truly feel
I-
that from where Tim and the crew dug, what was it, 2019 before COVID? And that's how long we've been on this topic, you know? So how Liberty Street or Walnut or Maple Street got ahead of us, I don't know how. But we dug up 20 foot and the water was flowing to that point and it was stopped from that point on. So yeah, I can guarantee you that. But Walnut Township is willing to dig, and they haven't done it yet, but they're going to dig on the north side of the road, just off the culvert, to see if it's plugged there. If it is, that's in Walnut Township then. What all I'm saying is let's fix our problem. You know, at least let's do our thing. And I can tell you probably the tile is going to be about $4,500. Last time I got a price. Now I know I'm going to stand here and tell you the town workers, they're on duty every day they're working. I know that's a cost to you and I don't know what that cost is, but I know there's more than just material. But you're spending more on engineering than what this project would cost. And the thing is, if we did this, we would know our part of this is clean, it's flowing. And then it falls into somebody else. But for us just to stand back and say, well, can you guarantee me it's going to work over there? Well, no, you couldn't guarantee it either.
That's why we have the engineering study.
But engineering
because you
stuff, they
said-
didn't even go down there.
But because we haven't paid them to do it yet. That's what we're talking about.
Let me ask you a
But
question.
let me finish. You said that, and this has been going on since 2019 when they dug it up. My first month as mayor in 2016, there was a proposal for a $300,000 project to fix the drainage in that area. So it's been going on a lot longer than just 2019.
Absolutely.
And that project included a
Got
lot more
squelched.
than the 300 feet of tile. I know tile too. We changed 300 feet of village storm tile. How's it get from the field into the tile?
What do you mean, how does it get there? It's coming north into the tile. It just, what happens is the tile can't run, and it runs on top of the ground. We watch it every big storm we have out there.
Then I guess council has a decision. We can spend $25,000 to do the engineering. Or we can spend probably less than $10,000, replace 300 feet of tile and be done with it. But if it doesn't fix it, we're done with it.
I wouldn't
go that
far.
We still have a problem. We
Well,
still have a
that's-
problem.
That's what I
No.
just heard is that.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying you did what you can do in the
Right.
village.
Well, that's what I said. When I'm saying we're done with it, that means we're done with it.
Well, I would hope that you would sit there and say, we're going to fix our part. If that doesn't work, you're going to work with us, the residents, with Walnut Township
Well,
and fight it further.
so.
You should never say you're going to be done with
But you
us.
just told me 300 feet would fix it. So my point is, let me finish. My point is, if we spend $10,000 replacing that line and it doesn't fix it,
Okay,
and then I have to do an engineering study to figure out. what
so
to fix
do
it.
your engineering study, spend 25,000 if that's what it was. I thought that's what I heard. And then come out and do it and spend 10 and it still doesn't work. What's the difference?
We're not going to do that 300 feet if the engineering study says that's not going to fix it. Because.
So in other words, what you're
identify the
saying,
problem.
what you're saying is these engineers that come in from wherever they're from, and I don't know who they were, that walk, I saw them walking. I didn't join them because I thought I better keep my nose out of this. But they walked down through there and looked at stuff that Tim pointed out, and I'm sure Tim told them everything. But you think they know as much about that land out there more than we do?
I have one question.
Yeah,
have
I
one
don't.
question. Is this project on village property? Or is it on
Most
private
of it, yes, most of it is on village. We
We
all
own the
know,
land where this project is on.
No,
And we're responsible for maintenance on the land where this 300 foot of tile is going. Or is it on private property?
it's all on private.
it's all private property.
Okay,
Yeah,
discussion's over.
why? That's our storm sewer. You fix everybody else's here in town and you charge us $3 a month for storm water and we get nothing? You
All
annexed
the
it.
storm.
You
lines are
annexed
on
it.
Easement for public property.
You annexed the property. That's our storm sewer out
Is it
there.
on? We
I don't
annex
care
private
whose
land
property
into-
it's on.
We annex private land into the village routinely.
Yeah, and then you
So
do
when
nothing, then you do
utilities-
nothing,
when
you do
utilities-
nothing with it. So do you think the people east of us that you want to annex is having problems there, you're gonna annex that
So-
just back out to, we're not
So
gonna
when
help
your
you.
plumbing in your house breaks, is the village gonna come into your house? and
No,
fix
are
your
they gonna go
plumbing?
to your house?
No. 'cause
Do
I'm a
they,
private
but do
owner.
they fix your
I
storm
fix my
sewer?
own stuff and I
Do
hire
they
a plumber.
fix your storm
Okay,
sewer?
listen,
Don't tell me, listen, I've lived in this town a lot longer than you have.
that's irrelevant to the
No, it
discussion, sir.
I paid a
What
whole
I'm
lot of
telling you
taxes in this
is-
town, so don't give me that stuff. It is our infrastructure.
Discussion's
It needs
over.
to be
Please have a
fixed.
seat.
Sorry,
Time is over. Please have a seat. We understand the issue.
Mr. Mayor, you gonna let me do that tonight?
I do not.
I'm the chair of this committee. Okay,
I'll tell you what, and I'll honor your comment. But let me tell you, from this meeting on, this room is gonna be so full, you won't be able to talk to everybody. I'm trying to be kind with it, but we've been doing this since 2019 at least. And then you go over there and fix a storm sewer. And I can understand the difference, but we're suffering out there.
See, we understand that also, and we're trying to do what we can do within our purview to do it correctly.
And the only thing I'm trying to tell you is I think you're spending money you don't have to spend. I'm a taxpayer. So am I. I understand. I'm just saying, I don't think you have to spend that to fix the town's portion of it. That's all I'm trying to say.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So if you want
I
me to set, I'll
apologize
set.
for-
I won't set, I'll walk out, but I won't walk out angry. Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Chairperson Cosgrave, what we have before us, a vote, either a motion to adopt the scope of services from B3 or not to adopt the scope of services.
Do I have a motion from the committee on this issue?
I don't, not for me either. I here's my dilemma. I've listened to, I've been at every meeting. I've listened to when they came in. I listened to everybody's, but I just don't feel knowledgeable enough about storm sewers to, I think he has a lot of good points. I think he has a lot of good points. And I'm not clear, I guess I'm not, here's what I'm not clear about. The last that I knew, that Walnut Township was going to go out, and Walnut Township said that yes, they were going to look at the culvert. Is that the culvert?
They're gonna
Yeah,
start at the
right.
culvert and go to the first inspection pit and see if anything's plugged there, and see if they can see where it is plugged.
Can this wait until they do that? I guess that's my question. Can this wait until they do that and we see what the result of that is? Or does that make no sense?
We can do whatever you
And,
want.
and the village really had had a hand in creating the problem. Because I created 5 lots in town. And for me to create 5 lots in town, I had to deal with or have a plan for what I was going to do with stormwater. Clearly, several lots were added, a bunch of lots were added all the way down Holder Road. They were all added on 2-acre parcels, so they wouldn't have to extend the sewer line. If they wanted smaller parcels, they would have had to extend the sewer line. But we let them break off lot after lot after lot in the cheapest way possible. And we didn't require them to plan for their stormwater. Their plan was to rely on this old 100-year-old Ackers ditch. That was their plan. And they have no obligation to maintain it. It has failed. You can plainly see with your own eyes where it has failed and how it has failed. And no one's responsible for fixing it. And everybody out there has been dealing with it for over 20 years.
And that's a Walnut Township issue, isn't it?
At this point, it may not even wander into Walnut Township. It is completely in the village, and it barely skirts Walnut Township as it gets very close to Holder Road, within 100 feet. The other 200 feet is all squarely in the village, and where the failures are, like Walnut's going to dig a percentage of that 100 feet before it comes back into the village. But, Walnut Township didn't get added houses and taxpayers by adding these lots in the cheapest form manner. Well, we didn't require sidewalks. We didn't require curbs. We didn't require anybody to deal with stormwater. These are mistakes of the past. And there are skeletons.
They're similar to other issues we have in the
Right.
village that.
But let's not make the same mistakes
Like
moving
everybody
forward.
putting their their runoff into their sump pump and pumping it into the wastewater treatment plant.
That's all the town. I got
Okay,
it.
so,
I know,
yeah,
I know.
so we can't do anything about that moving forward. What we can do is try to fix those errors, and whenever we have new buildings or whatever coming in, like you said, do it properly. But all mismanagement of prior administrations, here we are trying to clean up this mess. So, and that's gonna cost money.
Well, and he's just suggesting that we can see something broken. Why don't we fix that before we hire an engineer to tell us a whole new game plan? I'm not saying we don't end up doing both. I'm just saying, if you see something broken, why don't you fix it? And where it's broken is absolutely right on the township village line.
I'm of two minds on it, because you drive by, you see the water. And, yeah, I mean, you can't help but not notice it when it's there. But I also have, again, some of it is the sins of prior administrations, that it's been created. But it's also, to me, a little different than if we had run a line and it's in our easement. And I'm thinking of my mom and stepdad's farm at the Taskell. It used to be out in the county, and then Taskell had annexed it in, and they put a nice curve down the road. You still got a working farm, and the water now shoots into one of the fields. They didn't pay us to fix that tile, or to put a new tile in to run it back to the street. That was totally on us. They created the problem by putting in a curve to literally run the water to the field. And, you know, it's, well, yeah, we ran it there, but it's your private property. If you want a tile there, you run it. If it breaks, you fix it.
But we don't have a storm sewer out, and I'm sorry,
No.
we don't have a storm sewer out there to run into.
We don't either. There is no storm sewer out there. We had to
And
run it
yeah,
to a
we
creek.
are, it is on private property that he's suggesting, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm involved.
Oh, no, you're fine.
It is on private property that he's suggesting, hey, let's put this 300 feet in, you know. We don't have a choice. We don't have a storm sewer to put it into.
Well, and that's the same thing that we dealt with.
And it is.
The city ran the water into the field. There's no storm sewer out there. So you dig a tile and you gravity it to the stream that runs into the back of the lot.
Well,
And exactly.
One threes is probably not gonna include anything to do with
We
that.
had to pay for it. The city won't pay for it. They created our problem, but, okay, sorry, water's on your land. You fix it how you want.
I believe this person's going to put 300 feet in and then take it to the woman township.
Well, and then we get to the other issues of the village doing, the person would have to agree to let us do it.
Oh, they will. That's not.
But I mean, that's where I'm of the two minds, because yes, it's a problem, and yes, the village helped create part of that problem. But on the other hand, the practical thing, and that some of us others might have experienced as well, is, well, yeah, the water's on your private property. Get it out however you can. Run it to a creek. If there is a storm sewer, you run it there. But yeah, so that's why I'm of two minds. And I like having the data.
If we
I
are going
know.
to apply for grants, we are going to have a study.
Yeah. It's
And
not,
the
you can't
whole
rely on,
project-
I've lived here and.
Right, and the whole project from when Mr. Morrison had put it together, you know, that was $300,000 project. So, I mean, we're gonna need help. That's all there is to it.
And it had $30,000 of engineering just in that
And
$300,000
that, yeah,
project.
we ended up, the village ended up paying 30-some thousand. But the thing of it is
So we've
that-
already done this once?
No.
What did we do for 30,000?
Well, first of all, that's a good question.
You paid Don Morrison to put together a project that he didn't include in the scope of work when he worked for us.
So I have no idea. I have looked all over for all kinds of documentation. We have that great big board, as you can see usually, you know, and that's what we got out of it. But I'm just saying that if I go to get any grants anywhere, I'll have help study that.
Yeah.
And the other thing that bothers me a tad, and again, understand, I do what you all tell me to do. This is not my project. I'm trying to get a solution for my residents too, but I think it's important that we realize that whether we like it or not, there's a difference between doing work on village land and doing work on township land, whether we like it or not, and doing work in private. So if we would want to pursue that, and I know Mr. Reedy is things that we're making him out of molehill, and I'm not, I'm here to protect the village, period, that's it. And we probably will have to get a legal opinion of some sort on whether we can do it. I mean, for instance, I mean, it sounds crazy. What if my guys go out there and they flip the grader that they're working on and somebody gets hurt or killed and it's on township property? You know, I just think there are just some things that we have to cover the bases to make sure. And I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill. I've been here since the couple months after the mayor. And this whole issue has been there the whole time. I personally would like to put it together that I'm with Rick. I believe that the village did wrong when they annexed the property, no doubt in my mind. There is a storm sewer line that runs halfway out Boulder Road and goes to where that, I call it the woods of the forest is right there, and then it stops, you know. So some of it was there, some wasn't, and it just wasn't done right. I agree, that's Mr. So we just have to find a way to do it right. I mean, that's all there is to it.
From the committee, we don't have a motion to bring this forward. We'll have to revisit it in the future.
I would like to see the results of one of the townships and that's.
Okay, we can table this issue until one
Sounds
township gets on board and starts to work on the issue.
And so just for clarification as well, then the committee's not going to make a recommendation to go ahead and replace that 300 feet yet, or even start to look at that until we do, until we get one of township.
So
Do
this
we know?
estimate, I'm sorry.
I was gonna ask you, do we know that?
How long is this good for?
They'll tell me, I'll tell them what we're doing. They anticipate feedback tomorrow, but I told them it might be, we're not sure, this is what we want to do, so they're aware of the fact that, you know, they will honor it.
With the additional mapping that they're getting now, or are we able to put together a picture of where the township line is and where we believe the tile to be?
Yeah.
So that when we're talking about how much is in the township and how much is in the village, we have some understanding of that, because I have probably a better understanding of it than anybody, because I used to own that exact property. And I don't know exactly where the township line is or where we believe the tile to be. I know that when Walnut Township does theirs, we'll have a better sense of where the tile is at this location. And then we could probably get somebody to dig a exploratory hole or something to find out where it is at a different point. And then at the end of the township thing, maybe we could know more about where the tile really is versus where the township line is or the village line is. That's why I'd like to wait till after Walnut Township does
I
their.
think that it's a good approach, and I agree with you. The whole issue of this whole issue is that we have no mapping. I have a map from a Bentley that we had left from previous people who have looked at this, and even Ms. Reedy looked at it and said it wasn't right. So,
Well,
I
yeah, the
mean, it's just, who
1908 map was
knows?
brought up tonight. That was all.
Yeah, in 1908 from
Maybe
Mr.
it-
Lester, you
Maybe
know.
it has the line on it.
And do we know exactly when Walnut Township is going to
Yeah.
do theirs?
That's what
I
I
first
was
they were
gonna
gonna
ask.
do it, and then they weren't gonna do it, and they're doing it again now? They're gonna do it now?
The way
Walnut?
I understood the meeting that they had, the last meeting, when they invited Walnut or the people up, I did not go.
I didn't get invited.
You know,
They invited them up and said, hey, we're gonna, you know, do the friendship thing. And we're gonna go out there. and look at it." That's all I know. I don't even know what they're looking
I wasn't at that meeting either, but I had heard that it was voted 2-1 that they were going to actually
Clean
look at
out
it and then
that-
clean out that.
Yeah.
that
I mean,
pipe.
because that goes into the calculus. of, yeah, they're gonna look at it, but they're not gonna do it till next March. That's different than, hey,
My
we're gonna do it in
understanding
the
is
next
they're doing
couple
it
weeks.
this fall. What I heard was that someone mentioned that possibly when they replaced that culvert, they actually crushed it because it goes under it. And they thought, well, we probably better check that. So
Oh, yeah.
And it's right beside the culvert.
That would be easy to crush 100-year-old tile when you're
was-
replacing a culvert.
Yeah,
Now
so,
that you say it, it makes sense.
and the timelines kind of match up too. So let's give it a minute.
Hold on.
And stay with the assumption that there's a possibility that they'll find something out when they do their.
We just don't know when,
Right.
this fall maybe.
I believe
They do not have a date because they do not have all permissions to do it. They're trying to get permissions from one homeowner yet.
Mr. Roach,
But
according to-
yes. James
Roach.
Rouch Roush is who we need permission from.
According to Mr. Landis, he said that he has his permission.
Talking to
So-
Mr. Landis.
It's who, what?
I'm talking to Mr. Landis.
Oh, he's the one that said that out at Christie's, that they had permission from me.
He may not have written permission,
Okey
and maybe
dokey.
that's what he's going for. He said he will get back with me tomorrow. I know he's out of state. Okay,
So we'll move on, we'll do.
I say we just put this
village
back on the
departments.
agenda.
Yeah,
So Parks and Rec Board, we have, we had a suggested a change in composition of the Parks and Rec Committee, to make it a subcommittee of the village, and that will go through rules, so from us to rules, right?
Mayor, did I put it on the wrong agenda?
sorry, I was making notes.
So there's.
We had talked about it in our meeting, and what I wanted to do is, I wanted to get a sub-advisory committee of users for the parks, so that we have more cohesiveness in who's doing what and what needs to be done.
Well, and one of those was, because when the village created the Parks and Recreation
Yes.
Board,
Yes.
why? Because we didn't have any shared fields like a lot of places that do, so we're looking,
We did at that time. I talked to Mr. Hook Rattle.
yeah,
He said he wasn't original on the committee, but after he was on the committee, he realized that before they put in the grade school, there used to be a softball field down there or something. And so that's why it was a joint, because they were using the fields where that's what Mr. Hook Rattle told me, Mr. Foreman. I just talked to him.
Yeah, we're all looking at us. going,
Yeah.
"I don't think So,
All the people who have been here for a long time are shaking their head.
that was
All
a
right.
field.
So,
so,
so
but
it
even
doesn't
if
matter.
it was,
Yeah.
there's no longer a shared services.
No
field.
shared services anywhere.
So it might be something to look at, that we would have to talk to Jeff about dissolving that bigger committee so that it can be a council appointed.
And what does that exactly mean?
So right now, under Ohio law, our Parks and Rec Board is a council person, one person appointed by the mayor, and 2 people appointed by the school board. And I'm missing one. There's 5 people on it.
2 residents. 1
Two
council member,
2 residents, 1 council member.
And
The village appoints some, the school appoints some.
But this is where the kicker is. In order to be a part of that committee, you have to be a resident of the village unless you're in the school. And then you don't have to be a resident of the village. And that's where we have one of the mega users sit on the board, but he can't vote. You know,
We can't put the people that regularly use the parks
right,
on this board. BYBA, soccer, the
football.
Lions.
The school's no longer relevant, and maybe
Yeah.
never was.
That is
Exactly.
correct.
And what was mentioned to me was that at that time, there was a situation where the school was using Diamonds at Alt Park for something. I think it was like either girls softball or
So-
maybe or
Says
something.
middle school baseball.
Middle school baseball.
So
There was a time.
But now that they don't, we have the problem where the people that use the parks
Or out
can't
of
be,
the loop.
are out of the loop and can't be
Gotcha.
part of the decision.
And
making
they're
on
out
what
there
to do.
getting grants. They are willing to get grants. And all of this came up because I applied for a grant with ODNR to get some bleachers for Alt Park. The issue is that the grant requires you to have minutes from the meeting where it was discussed and voted on. Well, BYBA probably holds their meetings in the middle of the field or whatever. And of course, our park people, we haven't been able to get enough people to sit on the park committee to have quorum. So I just told the lady from ODNR I'd apply next year. If I get park users, the mega park users on the subcommittee, then when we say, and everything always goes through council. So even if they say they wanna, I don't know, put up a new dugout or whatever, we would come to council on the report out that is allowed for it in council and say, this is what they wanna do is put a dugout.
And so that's why I say it makes even more sense to get rid of the committee that's confined by the state law. Council via rules creates a new Parks and Recreation Committee, and council can define who can
Subcommittee.
sit on it.
So yeah, it doesn't go to you.
So
Take that over to.
yeah, it's kind of both. It could be on both because Parks and Rec reports to
To
service, but rules needs to do the creating the committee and we have to talk to
So we
Jeff
do the
about.
creating the committee, but then they
Pass
send
it
it
to
to
us,
him.
we'll approve it. and send it
Gotcha.
to
Yeah.
council.
Okay,
Okay.
that makes sense.
Okay, so that's what I'm looking for, so tell me where to go.
I read it over and it's fine as written. I would suggest that we punt that over to rules. You guys hash out all the dot the i's and cross the t's, send it to us, and that'll be good to go.
So we're making a motion to create, there was subcommittee of
Okay, so
service
before
now.
we do that, let me read this, okay?
Mhm.
So on your attachment on the second page, under powers, the Park and Rec Board shall have these duties and responsibilities. Advise council through the service committee. So that's why I put it on the service.
But rules is the one that develops the rules of council. So if we're going to make a new
Oh, this is the
council
rule.
committee that develops the committees, kind of like tree commission and all of those others, that should more appropriately go through the rules. It's kind of a joint thing.
And then
Then I got a question. In that fine and dandy, we have that committee, but isn't that up to the mayor to then appoint people on it?
It would depend on what the
Because
rules.
most of the time you do.
Most of the time we do. Rules could actually, you can actually define it in rules, kind of like we do with finance committee. The president or its designee of BYBA, the
Like
president or
last
its
page.
designee of the softball, president or designee of the sea lions, all get a seat on the committee. And maybe you then appoint one other resident
Okay.
or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
I
yes.
did on the last page.
And that way it assures those stakeholders have a seat at the table,
A voting seat.
a voting,
A
seat. Yeah, a voting seat.
Yes, so one park, so everybody doesn't think that one park's getting more than the other park, and, you know, it creates turmoil. We have a new.
Well, I know, I've said one and nobody shows up. I mean, even at the non-voting, but they
Because-
don't show up
yeah.
to get
That's
their,
correct,
their opinion.
Because the committee members aren't the stakeholders. Yeah.
correct. And so I think it's a really good proposal. So are you telling me my direction is to put this on rules committee for next meeting?
Yes, and we need to talk to Jeff about legislation to
Yeah, I'll
revert
do that.
the ORC Parks and Rec Board to go along with this. Yep.
Is any action needed here in this meeting?
No. The only other thing I wanted to talk about parks. But is every year it seems like it comes July or August after we've had a lot of rain and a lot of weeds and everything start growing. That we go and we rope off all the playgrounds and we spray them. And I absolutely hate that because I get a lot of phone calls about spraying the playgrounds where children play. So one of the things we did this week or last week is we got our brains together and we decided to come up with more of a environmental friendly spray. So we have got a new sprayer. We got, it's a combination of salt brine from the plants, vinegar, and Dawn dish soap. And so we sprayed the playground at Johnson Park as a pilot program to see how it would look. I went past today, there is very few green left, so probably we'll do another spray. And then if that works, then all of the playgrounds that we have will no longer use chemicals. We'll do the natural way. So I thought that was a good project.
That's outstanding.
I think
That
that's,
is-
you should put up, there should be something posted.
Oh, yeah, put it on the village
To make people aware, that's
website and
right.
stuff.
Yeah,
Because they see you spraying, they don't know you're not
Yeah,
spraying.
right. I think that's
It looks
absolutely
exactly the
fine.
same coming out of that tank.
Environmental,
Yeah,
That's
That's what I use in my driving too.
And then I want to save time for safety because I know we got a big topic in safety, but if I may, if you want to just look at the monthly metrics for the water, you'll notice that we came very close, a lot closer than we have been for months between the amount of treated water we produce and the amount of billed water. So that was a real plus. The only thing that was kind of unnerving for me is I had to pass out 77 delinquent tags this month. So out of those 77, though, 59 paid. So as you look at all of the graphs, you will see that the majority of the people, once they get a tag, pay. So I believe at our next service meeting, I'm going to probably propose something that covers like 77 tags to 2 people, 3 hours to do.
So that's 6 man hours.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to ask at the next service committee where we have like, I'm not sure how much it'd be, a $5 fee or a $7 fee, something that's not gonna bankrupt people, but it's obvious that they can pay because they're paying. You know, if we had an issue where they weren't paying, then I'd say we have an issue. Does that make sense? So probably we'll do that. The membrane 1, 3, and 4, 1, 2, and 4 are still on automatic. It's they're going along really well, so you can see we had no overflows last month. The first month since February, we haven't had any overflows. That's a good sign that our membranes are finally working, and that's why we'll be very due diligent to allow any increase.
I saw that the difference between the treated and what's going through the wastewater treatment plant. Like you treated like or distributed 6 million gallons and we ended up treating through the wastewater treatment plant. So like, where does the other 7 million gallons come from?
At the wastewater treatment plant?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the amount of rain we've had. This has been
Rain and
atrocious.
Oh my
The rain and
goodness.
I, that's exactly what's going through there.
Brick manholes are like a stormwater collector.
They are. One of the things, and that's a good point, Mr. Parks, one of the things that we want to do, we have all of the mapping of all of our manholes in the village. Those that the bricks are really bad on, we want to go and, you know, redo all of those and try, because you're right, they're like this.
And how that's part of our I&I project.
No, we're replacing a lot of water meters. It sounded like you said a
Yes.
pile of them come in.
Yes.
And we, in the process of replacing those water meters, like we're going to be in the person's house already. So we're there with permission. But I bought a house in this town. I don't own it anymore. And the water came into the house and there was a valve. And then you went a little further and there was a T. And then you went clear to the other end of the house and there was a water meter. And the T went to all the outside hose bits. It was built by people who live in this town, not by me. I would never do that. I was amused when I saw it. And I've since sold the house. I no longer own it, but it makes me wonder if there aren't other houses in town that are like that. Like the first thing that comes in, when the pipe comes into the house, the first thing that should encounter is the meter.
Yeah.
So this is an opportunity for us to take note of whether that is the situation or not.
And we will do that. And one of the other notes that we're taking is like, where is there some?
Yeah.
Where's it going? So yeah, we'll put that to, that'll be one of the projects that we come up with. So I'm just glad to have the meters.
And no deduct meter on the outside,
No, do you have meter in the outside?
because it's on the right side of the meter. Or the wrong side, depending on which perspective you're taking.
The only other thing we need then, Mr. Cosgrave, is a motion for the 2022-23.
Motion to,
We need a sponsor.
sponsor for the
And again, this is just a standard, anybody that is considering annexing in, it identifies what's going to annex in and then what services will be given.
resolution 2022-23.
So you just need a sponsor?
Yeah.
I'll sponsor.
Where's that at, Alan? 56?
It's on Boulder
Boulder
Road.
Road.
It's
on the
Last, it'll be
south
the
side.
last- Yes.
South side of the new house. Yes.
Two doors from Roger.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I see him down there. Yeah.
Real quick.
Services resolution 2022-23 of the council, sponsored by Rick Foreman. Nothing else.
Former members of adjourn.
Second. So, motion properly made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion. Passed. The adjourn. We're done.
All right, so we're moving into safety. So we're gonna call this meeting to order. 7:30. First thing we'd like to look at is roll call, please.
McCreary,
Present.
Keller,
President,
Reedy.
Present.
Also in attendance, we have the mayor, we have the administrator, Chief Tussey, we have the fiscal officer, and we also have Foreman Schaffner and Cosgrave, who are the council members in attendance. Approval of the minutes from the previous meeting, June 27th meeting.
I agree to be accepted in this as president.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Do we have any visitors? Nope. Okay. Goals. All right, so let's start on reports.
I have two issues I would like to discuss this evening. Three issues I'd like to discuss this evening. Which should be my report. So the first one is the Gordon Street. Currently, Gordon Street's barricades between the end of Gordon Street and the park are opened up. So right now, the end of Gordon Street, which is a dead end street, just take the top from Brandy.
So there's a whole other step.
I know,
that's
sorry.
on.
So currently, the end of Gordon Street empties into the park. And throughout the years, like many things do, it got to look like a road. We received a complaint, I don't know, what was it, last year, a couple years ago, about traffic and people flying through there. So we put the barricades up since the residents requested it. Since then, since we took the barricades down, the residents are suggesting they wanted something else because they're saying that there's no place for anybody to turn around. They're not getting patrol services like they used to, et cetera. So you asked me to look at it and I brought back some options for you. So on this paper that we passed out, there are 5 options. The first one is, there was a suggestion from the committee about doing cul-de-sac at the end of Gordon. As you can see, that would be a 40-foot area by 35-foot area, and that is going to be around $58,000. The second area that we would have to look at is the Connect Road, and that is option 2, from where Gordon ends to the parking lot, and that is around $63,400. The parking lot itself then, which is a 215-foot by 53-foot area, would be $47,824. Those are the first 3 options. Option number 4 is to put the barricades back. You know, option 5 is to leave them open. So by leaving them open, we're going to get that traffic from the end of Gordon Street into the park. And maintain the park. If we did all 3 options, just from the end of Gordon to the swimming pool parking lot, it'd be about $170,000.
How do we do a cul-de-sac and connect a road over?
Oh,
That's
okay,
what I
well,
was
yeah, you're right, you're right, so it would be,
But you could still, it'd be like a driveway going off of the cul-de-sac to the parking lot. You could
right,
do both.
that's kind of, so.
We really don't want to encourage more traffic through the park, so we want to give them an opportunity to turn out of the back.
Right, so that would be the 58,000 option. The other option that would be the combination of 2 and 3, sorry, Mary, and that would be coming down Gordon, going across, connecting to where the parking lot is, and then going down, and then that option would be 110,000, not the 169. So really, that one is not an option.
And of course, the other option, leave the barriers and where they're at. are open. That's what the
And
residents
control.
said. They could get in and out of there. So I did ask him about this, and that was verbal, that was not in writing. And that was when we first opened up the barricades. So I just need direction from,
Wait a minute, you said the fire said,
Casey said that they could
if
get,
they need the barrier was up, there's no problem.
they didn't have an issue, they could get in and out of there if they needed to.
Even if they're closed.
With a backup?
Yeah, because that's
Yeah.
what I was. Is that using
I
someone
guess if you got
else's?
sirens and lights, you get where you want.
True statement. So I just need direction on this. Right now, they're currently still open.
Why no when they're open? People does drive all the way around late at night and they fly through there. No, I've seen them. So, and if you make a bay, it's gonna be more of a
Runway.
runway, I guess.
I mean, the downside is you pave it and it makes it more of a runway and it potentially brings more traffic down Gordon, which.
I don't think they want it.
Even if,
Which
it-
they don't.
even if it's paved, we could put a gate up like we do at all parks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So even if we did all three, the cul-de-sac would be there to turn around and then you could gate off the park.
So with the development of Summer's
5
Choice,
days before someone runs through the gate. That's- I'll just call it right now.
Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
we need a gate.
The other thing we
Somebody got
could
to
do
go open it all.
is we could put a table there. You know, instead of a speed bump, they have what they call speed tables. That'll slow them down.
mhm. Because when we're thinking about the development of that housing development there, and then you're gonna have Summer's Choices, Official Street, you know. So there's probably gonna be an uptick in traffic coming from that side of town over to the subdivision, wouldn't we think? Yeah, I mean, either way, the traffic would be one of
It's
those
hard to
ways.
say, but remember that that section there is a parking lot also.
Where's the closest access then to?
Oh, you're saying from Robert's
Correct,
division.
from
so-
the
Oh,
PUD
that's
from
not
that
me.
section.
Because he had talked about connecting it to Summer's Choice.
Yeah, right.
We talked about that.
Puts it really close.
So it's just something to consider. I mean,
Where would he
Is there one?
connect it?
He doesn't own all the way over, does he?
it had been brought up, I remember in the meeting
Okay.
though,
He would
that
have to buy it
question
in.
mark, having an access on this end, because then it would decrease the volume of traffic coming in.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I wouldn't know where he would put it, long as someone choice.
I don't know, just somewhere on this end, but I just know that that was part of the
Yeah,
conversation.
you're right, that had been brought up and almost connecting it to the easternmost part of Summer's Choice, which is right across from the parking lot. Have we discussed these options with the residents on board?
The residents want
wanted
it to be open. Because they want to see police back there again, and they want to be able to let people,
Open with just no barricades and gravel maintained like it is? Or
open. is the word.
open and
Who was,
I can't remember, I have it written down.
open and,
it wasn't Mrs. Hannah.
yeah, open and
Was it
paved.
Mrs.
Well,
Mrs.
That's
Wilson?
it, that's it.
Yeah.
She's the last
Jennifer
house on
Yeah.
Yeah,
On the
she's
west.
the one that talked to all the other people, residents, and that's what they said. Open. So I don't know if we want to do a wait, see and trial and not move the barricades back, or
I think it
what are
makes
your
sense to just kind of wait and see at this point. There's too much up in the air.
I would say leave it open for a minute.
Yeah, I see. people a
Good
lot.
job, good job.
Okay. Is that what you think? Okay, so just kind of wait and see, leave it as it is currently open. And then we can discuss it as all of this comes into development, including that.
It costs too much trying to put it
Yeah, so do not replace the barricades, take them away.
Yes, leave them open,
Yeah.
leave it as it currently stands right now.
Yeah, and maybe in the future, we could, maybe make it a one way or something.
Mhm.
They can go out.
That
one
was
way.
your suggestion.
that you guys, I know you, I've seen you guys before, a long time ago, like before the barricade up, you guys go down Summer Choice and went up that way. So I've seen,
And two of those would likely be like a parks project rather than a streets project. Both of them is just parks parking lot.
Like-
Interesting.
So
Because you
park
can get
grants. and-
Grant
There you go.
application.
There you
There's that
go.
new park.
I think in that
So they're
regard, we
getting
just
their
separated the three.
No pressure. So, yeah, okay, so we'll put that on hold and it'll be a watch thing. The other item I have is, I really looked for some villages, because I know everybody goes, oh yeah, we did that with the fireworks ordinance, and I couldn't find any online. So I did print off this little pamphlet or whatever.
Right.
Because it tells you what you can do and what you can't do. And there are time limits and stuff, but I don't know how enforceable that is because I'm not.
I think it's important, because I read that too. I think it's important that maybe we put it on our website or something, so that at least, I don't know that it'll do any good,
We
but
can highlight or bold some of those areas if we can,
My
but
issue,
not to shoot it over other buildings.
my issue with the fireworks wasn't
150.
wasn't the time, because I actually found that people adhere to the times. I mean, one of them
Some of
was
my
like
complaints.
11 PM, and at least the ones that were raining down in my backyard, they stopped. I mean, they were done at 11.
But it's at like 150 feet. That's not, I
No.
mean, you're too close if it's
Yeah.
coming down on your back porch. So that was not correct for them to be doing.
Well, that's the problem because we got complaints from the west side, the Yunser County, Coomer area, and because they were like going on the roofs, and then also from the Rome side. And that's the ones that were going at 1:30 in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning.
And I mean, I guess we could see, because if someone is letting it off in their backyard, Wade's 100 feet one direction and I'm 100 feet the other direction and stuff, it does violate what they're doing under the existing law.
Who enforces this? This fireworks
Boy,
law?
That'd
Is
be
that
cheap.
you? Oh, I just, because I saw how fire codes, I just wondered. So is it something that you would rather I just post to the website? Because do we have
I think it should
another holiday coming up? Labor Day?
And maybe
You
the
can't do
please take
Labor Day.
note.
Huh?
Or mail that thing out, the water bill, for the water bill.
I was gonna say before.
That would make
I-
sense.
I don't-
The water Labor Day, that's the next
Yeah,
one.
but I don't anticipate as many, you're not gonna get as many fireworks on Labor Day and New Year's.
Well, you don't
Um,
know,
as
this
you-
is new.
This is true.
Like people, "Boo,
Another time.
Phantom will have another
The
variance.
thing is that people don't, they've never read that. And
No,
they
Right,
don't
right,
understand it.
that's exactly right. Comes
Send
down
it to them
to
in
the
a water
education.
bill.
Right, and so they think the law says that on any given day, you can go up to the freeway, buy $5 grand worth of fireworks and shoot them off. And that's really what it says in any way, shape, or form. So I've said this 100 times in here. I really believe it's all about education.
Maybe we try it, and I don't think we'll get as many on Labor Day, but you never know. So maybe we post it with some information a couple of times on the website. Chief can share it on the PD Facebook. And it's one of those that'll be hard to tell. Did we not get fireworks on Labor Day because it's not a big firework holiday, or did we not get fireworks because of the information? But if we post this on around every one of those holidays, by the time it comes to the next 4th of July, everyone will have seen it. It will have been available for everybody to see a bunch of times.
Is it not wise to put it in the water bill? Or
Well, we pay, of course, you have to pay for
Oh,
an insert.
absolutely.
But like we did with CCR, but we could do that, but I don't know, maybe we should wait until closer to July.
I would-
to
I
put the
would-
water bill.
I would
I
put
can
it in
put
the.
this on the
I was
website
gonna say,
like
we can put
this.
this on the website. I would think if we're gonna send it we send it in June for
Okay.
water bill, so that when everybody's thinking, I wanna go get my $1,000 worth of fireworks and I pay 500 for it,
That makes sense.
they get it then.
Oh, my town, Beaumont, everybody know about it.
Okay.
That's a good idea too.
And-
everybody.
Almost
A lot of our buzz.
And that'll give us time so we can budget for next year for that additional cost. I mean, it's not expensive,
Not expensive.
but it's a 2-pager, so
Sure.
it'll be $3, $4 per insert.
So back to back, and safety money.
They still count that.
Yeah,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
it's per page, and then they'll print it back
Reduce
to
the
that.
font,
So we'll
or
pay
reduce
for
it, combine two pages into one.
There you go,
So-
there you go.
All right, so that sounds like a definite.
Okay, I'll go-
Education is important. Okay.
Yeah. The only other thing I had for tonight was, if you remember, we had the trailer cab tractor parking. So the mayor told me to pull everything we had on trailers parking, and so I did. Some of them may not be applicable because they're recreational vehicles, but one thing I wanted to point out is that it talks about how you cannot park it so it blocks line of sight, which we talked about. So that might be good to include. So I'm not sure where you want to go with this.
I think it came up in the last meeting. Someone wanted to park their rig in the driveway. We have a couple of others. And it wasn't, we weren't really sure. We knew we prohibited trailer parking. And we thought that we prohibited tractor parking on the street, but we weren't real sure. So it was just one of those things that should we do something to clarify so that when people say, hey, I want to move into the village and park my rig in my driveway, am I okay to do that? We know one way or the other.
Just one little correction. So we do have a commercial and heavy vehicles, and that's in chapter 440. And you can park on, it talks about whether you can park on the street or not. What the issue was, can they park in the driveway? Beside their house or beside the neighbor's house? Like trailers right now can't be parked in front or beside the house. They have to be behind the house. So that's what it was. We need to be really specific, trust me, as code enforcement person. I know. So that's the only thing. I don't know if you want to do Jeff and do something initially based on what you see here.
But that, we already have this in play, right?
Chapter 440 we do, but it doesn't talk about parking at the house.
I guess the question is it, if someone parks their tractor in the driveway right next to someone's house and they call in and they say,
Right.
I used to see an SUV and now I see this giant, truck. How is this legal? Do you have the information in our ordinances to be comfortable answering why it's allowed?
That's why we need to do this, because the other thing that's gonna come up is that as we do code enforcement for trailers, I'm getting a lot of pushback that people are parking in their side yard right up to the front of the street. So I think we have to be very specific.
We briefly discussed the tractor and trailers being parked in their driveway. When initially, the conversation went, as long as it wasn't obstructing view of traffic. That was deemed acceptable.
So maybe that's all the ordinance needs to
Needs to
say,
say.
is that it, if it is parked in your driveway, it shall not obstruct line of sight to the road.
And do we say back?
Because then it's implicit in there that it's allowed, but for if it's like on a corner lot and it would block. Would that
So
help
if
you?
we do that with the big tractors, are they called tractors?
Yeah.
Okay, with the big tractors, then what are we gonna do with the people who aren't happy about having to put their travel trailer or their trailers in behind the house? What do I do in that case?
Trailer problem?
There are these.
Yeah, those tend to sit there longer.
If there's a maximum number
Those,
hours,
the
days.
tractor trailers,
On the street, not on the side of
the
the property.
tractor's presumably going to come and go and not be there all the time.
Does that need to be written in this one?
You know, the RVs and the campers and stuff, we didn't want them sitting in the driveways because they might sit there for 6 months.
And I
But-
also have trailers that are sitting in the front that people just store things on and put tarps over it. And that's what I'm trying to get moved, and that's why I got an issue.
Well, that's a whole different issue outside of this one, but, you know, like my neighbors, them, when they take their camper, they back it into their driveway, it sits there for a day while they load it up, and then it's gone. And then when they come back, it sits there for a day while they unload it. And
But
then,
you are presuming. You're all presuming that that's going, you know, they're gonna move it. What she's trying
well, I'm
to
saying
get
in my
at.
experience, yeah, so I'm trying to say that's why we want them behind, because it might be another 6 months before my neighbors take the camper out again, and you don't want it sitting in the driveway for 6 months.
Correct. But we need to help her when she has to
Define
answer
this.
these. It's like, okay, but your RV needs to be behind the house, but where is your tractor gonna sit? You know, and unless it's gonna move within 24 hours or
And
something. I
and
mean,
that's it, maybe it has the time limit of 48 hours. You know, or
Yeah.
an OTR guy gets home Friday night, and he goes out
Sure.
Monday morning, it's good.
I think that's.
Probably 72. Yeah, I was 72.
72.
Yeah.
Get a max.
So
Does that help,
I'll let
Terry?
everybody
We'll come up with something for the next meeting. Okay, okay.
all right, so the police department report. Chief,
Some of the stuff has already been talked about, talked about fireworks. We're getting complaints on fireworks, but most of it that I've got phone calls about is kind of like what the mayor said, somebody gets up and goes, I found like this exploded thing on top of my car or something. So that's what, but that, I think that's pretty much been taken care of. Let's see here. And just for information, starting next Tuesday night, the new officer will begin his overnight shift. So he's done, because he had worked with us before, we could minimize the amount of hours he had to put in. And he has spent his time since coming here with deputy chief and going over rules, regulations, stuff, just to really reinforce that. Making sure he's got all his equipment that he needs. So, just that. And the only other thing I would ask is, I think some of you, maybe you know Dave Wolfel, our older officer. Dave is facing some pretty serious health issues. So just ask everybody to keep him in thoughts and prayers in his family. That's really all I've got for now.
on here, we have old business or the street, continued discussion.
I think that was
We
our-
just did.
We already
Well, covered
tabled
that.
that, okay. New business, fireworks, interrupt parking, it's all been taken care of. Okay,
Look how
so we are finished, very efficient. All right, so our next meeting is scheduled for the fourth Monday in August, which is going to be August 22nd at 6:45. We're meeting following the service committee meeting. Motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Good job, short meeting, and I didn't think you would do it, but you got it done with 2 minutes to spare.
I said we went through everything. Good deal.
Ryan, do you have this still live?
Figured 2 minutes wouldn't hurt. Yeah, that's good. Yep.
So can you-
Thanks.
That's all I said. That's all I wanted to
This heat has been getting, sorry. I have.
We'll make it quick.
You seem like.
7:30?
Start to go up.
All right. and make it all this meeting order at 7:30.
Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Cosgray,
Present.
Foreman,
Present.
Keller, Curry,
Present.
Reedy,
Present.
and Schaffner.
Present.
All right, everyone present. First item is the approval of the minutes from July 11th.
Accept the minutes there, printed or email.
Foreman seconds.
Any discussion on the minutes? None, roll call.
Cosgray,
Abstain.
Foreman,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
McCreary,
Yes.
Reedy,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
All right, minutes will be approved as written. Next is the approval of tonight's agenda. I'm not aware of any minutes.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
30 seconds.
Discussion, roll call.
Cosgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
McCreary,
Yes.
Reedy,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
All right. Visitors, no one here, no one contacted to be online, so we'll go straight into village administration reports. For me, just a few things, festivals coming up. I know they're gearing up and getting everything going. So should be a good time before our next council meeting, so I hope everybody gets a chance to make it to that. And it hasn't had a grand opening yet, but I knew there was a trial day, and then I guess it was a soft opening, but the coffee shop in town, just up here, opened their doors this morning. Because they've been talking about doing a grand opening, and then all of a sudden this morning, everybody's like, hey, I got coffee here, check it out. So they are open now.
What is it called again?
Juniper and Ivy.
Yeah.
They just got their permit approved this morning.
So that must have been when they went over and opened that.
Was that part of the boutique next door, or is that something?
Yes, that is.
It is.
Together.
Yes.
What is it, just coffee only?
Well,
I
you
saw
can
some
buy
good looking
things
blueberry
up there.
muffins.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Coffee, but they do.
They sell
snacks.
Donut World
Well,
donuts.
they have tea.
Nice.
Oh,
Yes.
Yum.
So I was told, I don't have firsthand knowledge.
So. But it is now open, so. And obviously garnering some excitement.
You did.
So, other than that, summer tends to be some of our slower times, except for Terry and all the grant stuff she's got going on. So I will let Terry take over because she has all the details.
So I'll talk really brief because I have my own meeting tonight, but cemetery grant, I'm in the process of getting that submitted. What we're submitting is I only have one more documentation in that I have to gather, and it's to put the plexiglass on both sides of the stained glass to protect it from vandalism. So I'm going to submit for a grant to have that done. The grant to the ODNR for the bleachers out at Wall Park. I'm not going to submit that this year, and of course, we already talked about the Parks Committee, et cetera. Those are the grants, new grants that I have going on. I will be on bereavement the rest of the week, and then on vacation, but I won't have my computer since it now works after a whole morning without a computer. So I think that's all I have. When we talk about the fire report, I'll give a little bit on the status of that. So that's all I have.
Well, I see that you probably, I got your email about some choice. I haven't seen any problem since then. But the smell about to kill you, you drive down.
And that's a part of the commit, and I will do that, Chuck. I will do that. Yeah. Sometimes we just need some pride.
I know, but like I said, part of the problem's going.
Yeah, one step at a time. We got the first one. All right, Brian.
Did you guys get an email from the state auditor's office today or anything like that? Okay, well, today I got in the mail the results of our audit. So the audit season is now closed, but usually they send those out to.
Yeah.
Is this the final report?
Yeah, that's the final report.
I didn't receive it.
Why don't you just forward it to everybody?
Well, okay, I'll have to scan it, but usually they ask me for the contact and they usually email, so that's why I guess if you didn't get a copy of it, I'll send you a copy.
Maybe there will be that.
That's all I have.
One new piece of legislation on the agenda is a standard resolution explaining what services the village will offer to a parcel that is in the process of being annexed to the village. I would ask the council suspend the 3 reading rule and pass this on an emergency basis because we have a short time frame to comply with the requirements that are imposed by the county commissioners. And then the only other piece of legislation on the agenda is ordinance on the 3rd reading, and that's to amend chapter 1026.04, which is water and wastewater rules and regulations. That's just an update. That's all I have.
Finance.
Okay, Mayor, we haven't met for a while, but our next meeting will be August the 8th.
Service.
Service, we met this evening at resolution sponsored by resolution 2022-23. Our next meeting is August 22.
Safety.
Yes, Mayor, we met this evening at around 7 o'clock. We had a pretty in-depth discussion, went quickly though, but it was about Gordon Street, and we have decided to leave that open for now, and we can look at the other options at a later time, but for now, keep that open. Also, we talked about fireworks, and the importance of educating the public on the fireworks laws and regulations, just to make sure that we really encourage people to be safe when they're celebrating. And our next meeting is going to be August 22nd, as a school-wide conference service.
We didn't meet tonight, but our next meeting will be August 8th, approximately 6:45.
Moving on. Chief, police department.
Well, let's see, new officer is gonna be on a regular schedule next Tuesday. The SRO school that we've been waiting confirmation on confirmed, that's in September for Lieutenant Rogers. Festival staffing is completed, including the requested special duty. That's really good news today. RS1 is supposed to be back in service next week. They're waiting on a windshield, believe it or not. Fireworks earlier, and again, keep Officer Wolf in your prayers and thoughts, please.
Fire board.
Fire board met last Thursday, July 21st, and I did distribute June minutes by email to everybody today. There had been some questions at the last rules committee, actually, about some questions that you guys wanted to ask the fire board, and I also answered those questions and sent those out to everybody today by email. So everybody should have that. And then our next meeting is scheduled for August 18th.
And if I could just add just a moment to Ms. Schaffner's report. I did post at the property that was burnt, unfit for human occupancy last Friday. And they have a couple of weeks to get back with me with a plan of what they're going to do. So we'll be watching the property pretty close, and there's a lot of cleanup that needs to be done there. So just to let you know, we have our eyes on the property.
Questions for our board? Not, we'll go on to planning and zoning. We haven't met since our last meeting. Next one is scheduled August the 11th.
Correct.
Tree commission.
I just wanted to take this time while you're reporting on the tree commission that we, 2 years ago, passed a dead tree ordinance because of all the complaints that we had in the village about people not taking down dead trees and that being a safety hazard. I sent out, I think a half a dozen letters, some from that were on the list before, some that weren't. I received a lot of good feedback, and most of the time, you know, people are upset when they get a letter, but you know, most of the people of the feedback that I got, we had a long discussion. It seems like most of the trees that I didn't identify were trees that AEP has chopped out the top at one point in time, continued to chop, and also added that growth retardant to the tree, which is just another word for it's done for. So some of these trees that are in this shape that need to come down are a concern to me. So one of the things that I'm going to do, and I had Steve Cockrell go inspect a couple of the trees just to make sure. And he sent me a report today. So at the tree commission meeting, I'm going to bring up to our Tree City USA person, what kind of help is out there and what are they doing about this? Because I know in my husband's village in Gambier, the council there outlawed or told AEP that they cannot use the growth retardant at all. So I'm going to ask at the tree committee, this our leader and safety and what is going on. Because I personally feel if our residents have on their property a tree, if this has happened to, you know, are we going to tell them when you need to get this tree down? It could be $1,500, it could be $2,000. That's a lot of money. So all of those I have put a hold on right now, not enforcing the, usually I do a 14-day, you know, redo, but I put a hold on those and I'll let you know what they suggest we do, but it might be something I may come back to council and ask them to see if we could do the same thing and that's get rid of the growth retardant. I don't know how much we can do that and how it works. When I ask my husband, he goes, nobody complains anymore, so I'm saying.
Why do they put the growth retardant? Is the dead?
No, they did that on my property. Sorry to interrupt. They did
Okay,
that on my
no,
property. I
okay.
got those trees right out front.
Yeah.
If I hadn't been home and watched them try to walk up and spray it or put that stuff on the roots of the tree, the tree on my property, inside my property. And I know they've got some kind of easement or whatever, but they were gonna put that stuff on. Tell them not to do it. They would have done that.
And it just keeps the trees from growing into the.
Under the power lines, it's like they don't have to trim it as often or maybe never again.
These trees aren't, they're not near the power lines. They're, I guess, like, so the easement is like 13 feet. My trees are like, you know, 13 to 14 feet off where the power lines are.
I guess it begs the question, all the trees that the tree commission is planting along the right of way that are not supposed to get as big and interfere, but are they putting them on there?
Well, that was one thing, it goes back to what Rick said, there are a lot of sins that we still have to deal with, and that's one of them. And we're making sure that the type of tree that are being planted underneath the lines are trees that will not do
I
that.
know, but we know that, but does
Oh.
AEP know that? Are they putting the growth retardant on the new trees we're
Oh.
planting?
So that I can't answer.
Michael.
So did they back off? Yeah, I told him, I was there, and I told him, no.
I think you can stop them from doing it. The one lady, I very enjoyed very much the very long conversation I had with her, and it's on her private property. She said, yeah, they come up with a blue X on the tree saying, put the growth here. So she said, I went to Ace Hardware and bought a can of brown spray paint and painted over it. Every time they put it on, I painted it brown. She said they stopped.
And one resident is absolutely certain it's the village put the blue paint on the tree.
Yeah, and it's not.
And I know that.
Oh, okay, so anyhow, I thought that was good. So I did want to bring that up because there may be more action. We'll see what we can do. Maybe like, chain ourselves to a tree or something. That's all I have.
Sorry,
Yeah.
just have a funny visual.
Never mind. All right. Records Commission. Nothing to report. I said we'll be setting up a meeting because Brian's got stuff to destroy. Any motions? If not, we'll go on to first readings, resolution 2022-23. Resolution indicating what services the village will provide to attract to 0.25 plus acres upon annexation, declaration of an emergency, sponsor is Mr. Warren.
Yeah, this is like a boilerplate annexation agreement, so I make a motion, we suspend the 3 reading rule and pass this tonight.
Second.
Cosgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
McCreary,
Yes.
Reedy,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
All right, 3 readings suspended.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Discussion on 2022-23.
Yes.
Cosgray,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
McCreary,
Yes.
Reedy,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
All right, 6-0, 2022-23 will be adopted. Nothing for second readings. Third reading, ordinance 2022-20, an ordinance amending chapter 1026.04 of Baltimore Codified Ordinances, water, wastewater rules, regulations, requirements for sanitary sewer. In order to update the same, declaration of emergency, sponsor is.
Stop paying attention, I'm sorry. Which one is it? I don't really have one on tonight.
It's the second one.
Second reading.
It's legislation, the ordinance.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Water
yeah.
and wastewater.
Yeah, this is up for third reading and we've had discussions about this one at length, so it's should pass tonight. Motion to run third reading. Or motion
This
to
is
adopt.
third reading.
So motion to adopt.
Second.
Discussion. I'll just remind you, even though it carries the emergency language, that's just so that it goes into effect immediately.
Right.
All right. Roll call.
Cosgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
McCreary,
Yes.
Reedy,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
2022-20 will be adopted. No other third readings, no tabled ordinances, anything have old business? Anybody have any new business?
I do, Mayor, real quickly. Just so everybody knows, the county commissioners will be holding a meeting upstairs in the Victoria Opera House on August 9th at 7 p.m. They are traveling from different.
They're just going, this was the,
Just to talk.
Yes.
Quick.
and this was the date we selected for them to come here. Randy was so kind to meet with them last week, so thank you.
Do they want streaming stuff upstairs? Are they doing that?
It's all been taken care of. They prefer not to use the electronic system if they don't need to. They thought the acoustics were fine.
Cool.
We'll set them up on the stage and
Doesn't say. August 9th at what time?
August 9th at 7 p.m.
Posted on the website.
And they do like to come and be in place by 6. So if you want to come a little bit earlier, obviously you're more than welcome to. The meeting will start at 7 p.m.
And you
Did
said
they like you to come? They want you to
No,
They come in and just kind of settle in early
Oh,
at about 6. So I'm just saying, if it's coming.
There's usually about, they said 30 to 40 people that attend.
happen?
They said 60, they've been running about 60 attendees.
Oh, that's good. You
For
said
meeting.
you were 40 there,
Yeah.
so that's good. I think it's a good opportunity for Baltimore. So.
Any other new business? Visitors, any last call? If not, our next meeting is August 8th at 7:30.
Foreman makes a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Very second.
Favor say aye.
Aye.